For a job that has 100 applications, 97 people are going to get a rejection. Not a personal one, just a form rejection. If you're job searching right now, you're in the right place. Welcome to Land Your Next Job, the show that helps you move from ghosting and rejection to interviews and offers. I'm Erica Parker Price, a certified career coach with a background in tech who has spent nearly a decade helping professionals land roles at companies like Microsoft, Google, and mission-driven organizations. Each week, I share what's actually working in today's job market, from LinkedIn and networking to how AI is reshaping hiring. You'll get clear strategies and inspiration so you can run this marathon without burnout or guesswork. Follow the show and let's land your next job together. Hello and happy Monday. I am Erica Parker Price, and we are talking about rejection today. I bring it up because it is something that job seekers bring up very often to me. One of the two most common responses that people get from a job application is rejection or ghosting. Now, we're going to focus on rejection today, and it can come in many different formats: anonymous, AI-driven, human-driven, personal, and over many different periods of time, right? You may be rejected so many months later, you don't even remember applying for that job. So it can come in many different shapes and forms, but it never feels good. I've been rejected countless times over the course of my career, but one comes up for me in particular. You know, when you see one of those jobs and you think, really, this would be perfect for me. I had been a product manager in a former life in my software days, and I was looking for a new position. It was a product manager position at Amazon, specifically in their Kindle department. Now, I thought I was perfect for that. I had been a product manager in the past. I had spent the past several years writing my own books. I was an avid reader. I checked all the boxes, and literally all the boxes that were on the application. But I decided I really wanted to go the extra mile. Because I had been working on writing my own books, but I didn't have any that were published, I thought, I know the answer. I could publish one on Kindle. And then I could be not only a Kindle customer that had my own Kindle, but I could also be a writer who had published on Kindle. Wouldn't that make for the perfect cover letter? So I went all the way. I purchased art to make the cover. I designed it. I filled out all the forms. I paid, I don't think it was a huge fee, but there was definitely some expense involved, and submitted that book. After that, I was ready to write my cover letter, and I feel like I wrote an amazing cover letter, sent it off. What was the reward I got for all of that? A form rejection letter. Nobody told me that they were impressed with all the effort that I have made, so I get it. I know how hard it is to get that rejection when you feel like this is something that you could have absolutely done if somebody would just give you a chance. And it feels personal. Am I right? When you get that, it feels personal. What we're going to talk about today is why it really isn't personal, how to handle it, and what you can learn from it. So let's look at the statistics first of all. If we look at just LinkedIn applications, they have a 3% conversion rate from application to interview. Not to offer, not to accepting a job, but 3% of all applications put through LinkedIn will convert to an interview. That means that for a job that has 100 applications, 97 people are going to get a rejection. Not a personal one, just a form rejection. And we know that a lot of jobs on LinkedIn really have far more than 100 applicants. So it's going to be more than 97 people that are getting them. But we'll say it's 97%. Now, some other job sites that are more specialized, job sites that specialize in government jobs or specialize in startup jobs, they may have slightly higher rates, but we're talking in the 5 to 10% application conversion rate, not anything higher than that. So the vast majority of people who are applying for a job will get a rejection. That's just a mathematical answer that the vast majority of people, no matter how qualified they are going to get a rejection based on an application. Now, are there ways to tip that in your favor? Absolutely. And that's why I talk about a lot of things that go beyond just sending a cold application, specifically networking, finding connections. But let's look at just the rejection rate for a moment because I know it feels so personal. So let's talk about why you're being rejected. What are the actual reasons that you've been rejected for this job? I'm going to go through a couple of them. You may come up with a couple more. But first of all, sometimes the job has already been filled. And I know that sounds crazy. Why would it be posted if the job has already been filled? And what I mean by that is that it's really reserved on the inside for somebody else. Most companies have to post every job that they plan on filling, even if they're going to be filling that through an internal transfer. And yes, they bring in other people to interview for those positions, even when they already know who it is that's going to go into that slot. Is that fair to the person who's spending all that effort doing the interview? Not necessarily. Is it fair to the people that are applying? Not necessarily that either, but it is the way that it works. I do think there's still information that can be gained if you happen to be one of the people that went on the interview. I always think it's a good opportunity to impress a recruiter, a hiring manager, anybody at that company for the next job that comes along. So I do not think it is entirely time wasted. I think that it can actually have long-term benefits. So that's the first reason. There's already somebody else that has been slotted into that position that you just happen to see posted. Sometimes someone else is truly a better fit. One of the words that I hear hiring managers use often is unicorn. We're really looking for a unicorn for this position. And that is code for we have 17 things that we want this person to be able to do. And when we see that exact right person, we'll know it. Now, it's easier for them to find that exact right position in a market like today where you have so many applicants for each job. And that can be frustrating if you were the person who thinks you could grow into the job, could learn to do the job. But in today's day, when a lot of companies are making less risky bets on hiring, largely because of budget constraints, they are frequently going to go for the person that they believe has already done the thing that they are looking for them to do in this new position. Okay, another possible reason, and this one happens more often than not, is that nobody ever saw your application. So the applicant tracking systems are definitely the first round of reviewing your application at most companies today. So the majority of companies will be using an ATS. And what that means is that it may have never gotten to a human. Now, are there ways that you can tailor your resume? Absolutely. Tailored resumes do perform better than generic resumes. And then the fourth reason that I'm going to mention here, not that this is an exhaustive list, but I think these are four really common ones, is that somebody else was recommended for the position. Maybe multiple other people have been recommended for the position to the hiring manager, and those are the applications that got pulled out of the pile. So if we think of a virtual pile of 100 applications, and then 3 different people go to the hiring manager and say, hey, I have somebody in mind for you for that position. Here's their name. They can get pulled out of that virtual pile, and that means that they may never get down to looking at all the other applications. Everybody has to go through that same application process, regardless of if they're recommended or not. But the reality is that the easiest way to get pulled out is if somebody gives your name to the hiring manager or in some cases the recruiter. So given all of those potential reasons and just the pure math behind it, that only a single-digit percentage of applications are ever going to convert to an interview, it makes sense. That's why I'm saying rejection is a feature, not a bug. It is the way that the job search works. Does it mean that it's hopeless? Absolutely not. There are still people that are out there that are getting hired. What it does mean is that you want to do a targeted search and you want to give yourself every chance you have for your application to get noticed in the process. My point here is that is very rarely a personal reflection of you that you don't get invited to an interview. There are simply other resumes that were considered before yours and they never got to looking at you. And so while we frequently take this rejection as a personal rejection, as in, I don't have the skills that it takes, I'm never going to find a job, if they won't take me, no one else will. All of those ideas, all of those thoughts that can pop into our head, It's very easy to fall into the trap of blaming yourself for the rejection and thinking that you're doing something wrong. If you had prepared your resume differently, if you had submitted a cover letter or not submitted a cover letter, any of the things that you could have changed, it's very easy to go down that rabbit hole. But the truth of the matter is that most rejections are simply zero information. You are not getting invited to an interview, but that is all that it tells you. It is not personal feedback. It's not personal at all. Knowing that it's not personal, my suggestion to people at this point is always that you don't change what you're doing until you're actually getting personal feedback. So if you happen to be talking to somebody and they tell you, hey, we didn't invite you for an interview because we couldn't tell from your resume that you actually have experience doing this thing, that's very personal feedback. It's rare that you would get it, but that is actionable feedback that you can go do something about. Most of the time, a rejection is simply a mathematical issue. Obviously, the vast majority get rejected, right? They're only going to take one in the end, so it makes sense mathematically that the majority will be rejected. Now, the question is, how do you handle it? What do you want to think when that happens? Rather than thinking, it's all my fault, I should have done something differently, what thought do you want to choose the next time you open your email and you see that message? And I really do suggest that you have a specific thought in mind. Depending upon who you are, it could be neutral and flat, it could be humorous, it could be anything that works for you. And so here are a couple that you can try on for size. Guess it's not that job. It doesn't hurt to try. It wasn't meant to be. The perfect job is out there for me. You may have something that feels much more true to you, and I would suggest that you find one. The idea is that you prepare yourself for the fact that rejection is going to be part of this process, and it means absolutely nothing about you. There are ways that you can learn from it to improve your process, but it is not telling you anything about yourself. In terms of what you can learn, I would say it depends upon the application process that you went through. If you simply submitted the application off of a job posting, I would suggest that you work next time to figure out how can you get closer to being one of those applicants that is pulled out of the pile. Figure out how to get a connection at that company. That's my number one suggestion if you didn't have that the first time. If you already had a connection there, and you didn't get invited to an interview, I would ask for feedback. I would ask your connection if they know anything about how they decided to go forward with this. Rejection is definitely not a part of the process that most people love. It is something that you need to tolerate, and knowing that it can build that resilience that you need to have in a job search. So choose your thought, decide what it is that you're going to think the next time you get a rejection. Think about how you can turn any sort of cold application into a warm application and ask for feedback whenever possible. You are strong, you are resilient, your job is out there for you. I am rooting for you. Go have a great week. That's a wrap for this week on Land Your Next Job. If this episode helped, please leave a quick review and subscribe wherever you listen. Share it with a friend in transition, and I'll see you next Monday. Let's land your next job together.